Good morning, Year 11s. Well, it's afternoon now. I'm going to run through the task 3 that you need to do for transpiration in plants. You all have been sent the task 3, so hopefully you've already read through that. But essentially, you can see here you are designing and then carrying out an investigation of at least 2 of the factors that influence transpiration in plants. We've been through that in class already, so you should be able to identify those factors pretty much straight away and have a think about which 2 you'd like to do. You can do more, okay? It's just at least 2 of those factors. After you've designed and carried out that experiment, you'll do everything up to the results. You won't need to write a discussion in that one. What you'll do, you'll actually complete some discussion type questions under exam conditions. Okay, so that's the component that you'll be looking at for the exam in week 4. Details, individual. As I mentioned before, it's hard for us to do group in our setting, so I would be sticking to individual. Time allowed, you've got 60 minutes to do research and plan an experiment. And as I said today in my class, that's pretty much your tutorial time, which is on your work rate calendar. So it shouldn't take you too long to conduct some research and plan your experiment. There's 60 minutes to conduct the practical, 60 minutes to write up, and then you'll have 60 minutes under exam conditions in week 4. Okay, so there's essentially 2 main components. We have part A and part B. Part A is, like I said, it was broken up into essentially 3 components. We'll have a look at those further in a second, but you'll have your conduct, your background research, and plan your experiment. Then you'll have conduct and write up your experiment. And those due dates are on your work rate calendar. And part B is the written test under exam conditions in week 4. Okay, as usual, we have that evidence that's going to support that it's your own work. Okay, nothing new there. Research journal, practical write-up, any correspondence with your teachers, and your references lists. Okay, same thing there, same note. If there's any doubt that it's your own work, you may have to defend that. Okay, we will be giving you your marking criteria. Next page, standard front cover. Nothing new there either. Okay, let's make this a little bit smaller. Move our face out of the way. Okay, so as always, I stress that you need to have a look at this marking criteria. In the interest of making this video a little bit shorter, I'm not going to go through each of these factors. But again, if you're looking at that A level, we are looking at revealing meaningful relationships. You're making links. Okay, you're applying your knowledge and understanding to a complex and challenging task. That means your experiment is going to need to be complex and challenging as well. Okay, and as discussed in lessons this week, we had a look at about making your experiment a bit more complex and adding that complexity. Okay, so make sure you're doing that for that A-level achievement standard. Formulating researchable questions using plant characteristics to clearly justify the question. Okay, you're going through designing and managing. And this one here, evaluate the design of an investigation and reflect on the adequacy of the data collected and propose refinements. Wasn't really done very well in the previous assessment by some students, and in some cases not answered at all. So make sure you have a look at that, have a think about that. Okay, and the other one there, you can read the rest of it. If you got any questions, ask me or Mr. Chen. So down to a few more details. Like I said, first step, you're conducting background research on the factors which affect transpiration in plants. From our lessons, you should be pretty well up to date on those factors. but do conduct some more research to get your references. You're going to design an experiment to test the effect of at least 2 factors on transpiration. You'll complete that experiment and practical write-up. That practical write-up is to your results stage, and then you'll complete a written task under exam conditions based on your practical report and research. So part A. Okay, so there's a couple of questions there that you can use to aid your research in your topic. And don't forget, you should always be adding your own questions in preparation for this experiment. We've just given you 3 there to get started. Okay, as always, we need to address any safety issues that might come across, identifying the hazards, assessing the risk, and controlling the risk as well. That need to be included. There's a couple of suggested readings there for you. Both of those links work, so there shouldn't be an issue getting access to those. The second part, or part A, your aim is to design and carry out an investigation of at least 2 factors. Okay, we have a document there, designing investigations template, if you want help in your planning. 3, you'll need to conduct and write that experiment up. So you have to go and collect all the materials you need to conduct the experiment. Remember to think about all the variables and trying to control the variables as much as possible. Okay, we went through that lesson this week. Important here, you need to take photos of your practical and submit with your report. Okay, again, providing us evidence that you have done your experiment and your results of your own work. Okay, so you might want to take photos as well of your results. So if you have a result, I'll show you a bit more, but you may, say if you use scales, you may take a photo of your experiment on the scales so we can see that that's the result you achieved. When you submit a copy of your write-up, it'll need an introduction, an aim, a hypothesis, your materials, your method, and your results. Okay, they're going to need to be submitted to me or Mr. Chen by week. That one is week 3, so the end of next week. Once again, including that photographic evidence of your practical work. You will keep a copy of your results table for the written task or the exam section. So our part B, okay, you need to write the discussion part essentially of the practical. Okay, that needs to be done in week 4. You get to decide which day you would like to do that. You'll need to contact your exam supervisors to organise that. You will need your data table, okay, so the one you created in part A. That's all you'll be able to take in terms of information. You'll need a pen and a lined paper for that written task. So you'll be writing your part B on your own paper. You'll not be able to take your practical write-up or background research into the exam. The only thing you're going to be able to take in is your results table. Okay. You'll also have to submit that results table as part of your exam. Okay, so that won't be coming out with you. You'll leave that with your exam supervisor, and that'll get posted back to your teacher. Okay, so that's all the what's written there on the task sheet. Okay. My class, I'll have our tutorial on Thursday if you've got any questions. The last bit I wanted to show you was, well, how do I do an experiment on transpiration? If you Google transpiration experiment as a good starting point, there will be lots of information. And you will find, hopefully that comes up with the, hopefully that comes up there with the PowerPoint. You'll find what's called a podometer. That's one way that you can measure transpiration. You're not expected to go and buy one. Okay, you can make this up yourself or kind of something similar. So all it really needs to be here, they've got the plant with an airtight seal in some rubber tubing or plastic tubing. Okay, you could get that plastic tubing from any aquarium shop or anything you have lying around the house. That's then filled with water, and essentially there's a measuring device of some description on the other end. Okay? As the plant undergoes transpiration, it's going to use up that water, okay? And the water level will go down, and you can measure the change in water over time. The picture on the right hand side, they've got a bit of a different setup. They've got that funnel there as well, and kind of a reservoir of water in the middle. That's just showing you that there are different ways to do that. And if you can only find a funnel that has measurement marks on there as well, that will work just as well. Okay, if you are doing some research, you'll see, like I said, there'll be quite a lot of different potometers. Again, this one has a reservoir there. They've used a water bubble in the middle to show them how much water has been used. So it's a slightly different setup there as well. You'll need to have a look and see which one you think is going to best fit your purpose and what you have available at home. Okay, another one here, very similar to the first one. They've got a pipette or a measuring device. If you don't have a pipette there, you could just write, also just mark that rubber tubing with a permanent marker, and use a ruler there as well. Okay, just remembering to make it as accurate as possible, okay, and ensure that you're getting some good accurate readings. The last way that you might want to try to do that as well is you can weigh that experiment as well. So you are essentially weighing how much water has been lost through transpiration. If you're going to do that, make sure, as you can see here, that the plant is airtight. So the only way any water can get out of that experimental setup, out of the plant, is through the leaves itself and via transpiration. And this one here, they've simplified that a little bit more. What they've done, they've used a layer of oil on the surface, so creating an airtight seal. So no water will be evaporated, but this little stem or cutting can still pull the water from up underneath and lost via transpiration there. Okay, so if you've got any questions, that's all I have for you. Talk to me or Mr. Chen.